Jamie from Inky&Scrappy, sharing with you today card 5 in my Tailored Expressions Uncle Sam stamp and stencil combo set. If you don't know, if this is your first one, I actually got the grab bag from Tailored Expressions and I got this stamp set, and it's not one that I would normally use, but I decided to, try it out. I love how my Uncle Sam cards turned out. My favorite of all of these is probably my last one, which was the Monopoly one. It's just reminiscent of years gone by. We don't play Monopoly anymore. But I was done after that one. And then, of course, I was like, oh, wait, the Mad Hatter had a stovepipe hat or a hat on his head. And so I decided, then I started, looking at Mad Hatter quotes, because I kind of wanted to do one where the quote was definitely the star of the card. And so I was looking at Mad Hatter quotes, and of course I found a few that I loved. And so here we are, right? So I did my first panel like I had done a lot of my other ones, where it was just the clear and cling combo style. So it was that cling stamp and then taking the clear over the top to fill it in. And so I did that one, and then I was like, you know what? I want to do some Zig clean color real brush marker painting or coloring. And so I did do that. And so for my second panel here, this is on Bristol Smooth cardstock. I stamped it in VersaFine Onyx Black ink after I did some anti-static powder tool. Set it with a clear embossing powder, and then of course used my Zig clean brush, my Zigs, to color it in. It looked a lot like a leprechaun to me. Yeah. For some reason I was thinking the Mad Hatter's hat was like purple or brown, but that would have been Willy Wonka's hat. So Willy Wonka is one that I did not get to. I thought of it. The only thing I could think of for Willy Wonka is probably Oompa Loompas and the gold ticket. So I guess I could make something work, but can I say I'm done playing with this one? It's not my normal, and I struggled big time on this one. I'm not going to lie. This one was like my hot mess express, and yeah. So once I had all of my Zig coloring done, and I messed up with my wet paint and my hand moving stuff around, I'm fixing my background, right? So I brought in Trinity Stamps. I think it's their Galaxy stencil. I will look it up and list it down below for you. And of course, Trinity Stamps also has the negatives for their stencils. So I did find the actual negatives, and I ended up going with the negatives there. And then I'm coming in with some Faded Jeans ink and kind of filling in. So if you saw how I did the purple, I'm going to do the same here with the Faded Jean. It just ends up taking me a little bit more time because obviously I'm kind of trying to go around my stamped images and fill in where I can, and then not get it too much into my purple. And so the idea was that this was the rabbit hole, right? So the swirling motion of the rabbit hole. I didn't have a checkered one, because otherwise I would have done this stencil with a checker on top and probably done a black and white checker on top of the swirl. But I was using what I had. And so I ended up going this route. For some odd reason, I was thinking the swirls to me are like the purple, but is it the cat in Alice in Wonderland? It's been many years since I've watched Alice in Wonderland. I'm not going to lie, Alice in Wonderland kind of creeped me out when I was a kid. So it's really not one that I've watched since. And I can't say I want to watch the new one with Johnny Depp. I just have not yet. And so I was going with what I could find online, and I know that it's quite colorful. Anyways, I didn't fill in the faces. I was kind of hemming and hawing because the Johnny Depp version, I think his face is painted white, and so, but I didn't like it, so I ended up going in with a skin tone color. And then because I hated the background, I added some splatter. What's the best way to fix something you hate? Add splatter. I still wasn't impressed with it, but that's okay. I let it sit for a couple of days. I came back to it and I was like, okay, I my goal was to make the sentiment the star of the show and not the background, right? So I'm coming in with Lawn Fawn's stitched mug, or stitched tea, stitched tea mug, teacup die, and then I'm going to color that in a coordinating that Seedless Preserve purple. And I did some Google searching again and found the Mad Hatter's cup, and so I'm trying to match as best as I can, because I didn't have the little swirly, the Mad Hatter's teacup. And so, of course, that stencil came along with that other one in the Galaxy set from Trinity Stamps. And then I'm going to add some blue edging to my plate here to kind of make it match the teacup in the movie. And then for my actual tea, I am coming in with my blending brush that had tea dyed ink. I did not actually use any more tea dye ink. It was just whatever was in my blending brush. So once I have that all ink blended, I'm going to come in with my stitched frame here from Lawn Fawn. I do believe that is the biggest one. It is an A2 size. And so I couldn't find the word always. If you look at that top right hand corner of the screen, oh look, your jokes are always amusing. Always. The word that I was looking for and couldn't find. So I created it with other stamps from my Lawn Fawn stamp sets. And then kind of picking and choosing the words that worked for my sentiment there. And of course, Lawn Fawn has their Tea Time stamp set that has a bunch that probably would have worked, but I was really going for the actual movie quote for this one. So that's why I created my own sentiment. And so now I'm just going to piece all of my things together here. I'm trying not to, work in, how shall we say, my chaotic self. Getting all of the things glued together so I can sit down all at once and get them all, put together. So basically I just needed to put everything together so I could actually build the front of my card. And yes, tea also spells eat. I would much rather eat than drink tea. I like tea, but I like eating more. Just saying, it's always eat time. So I decided I needed something to put my teacup on to kind of pop it up off that background. Maybe I should have used my cloudier vellum there. I don't know. But I'd used a Spellbinders scalloped oval die cut and kind of thought of it as maybe like your tea doily. I don't know. And then my sentiment didn't stamp the greatest. And so I just kind of cleaned it up with a white gel pen and then a black fine liner to just kind of make it a little bit better there. And then I'm going to add my teacup onto my not yet glued down piece of vellum. This way, by adding all of the things that are glued on top of the vellum, I can come back after it's dry here, pick it up, and then add glue onto the back of all of those pieces on the back of the vellum. It will make the vellum stick down and you won't see any adhesive through the vellum. And then I'm going to add it's always tea time. So I'm just going to add the time on the bottom there. And then I decided it just needed a little bit something on top of that doily there. And so I'm bringing in some Recollections hearts. I liked the purples in here, so that's what I'm going to use. Kind of using a darker purple and a lighter purple, just adding 3 to just kind of tie that in. And then I brought in my sickles. This is my rock candy sickles. I don't know. It decided that I needed extra sugary sparkles on my piece of sugar cube. I was unimpressed. I cleaned it up the best that I could and set it off to the side. It dried okay. It did pick up a little bit of that purple ink from the teacup. But that was card number 1. And on to card number 2 and 3. So I did say that my inspiration for this one was definitely the quotes from the book and or movie. In real life, I love to read, so I love book quotes. It's just kind of my thing. And so I picked out a couple of my favorites. I did some printing on my laser printer. I just kind of took my word processing program, typed out the quote, played with the font a little bit, printed them on some hammer mill cardstock, and sent them through my laminator with some rainbow colored foil. So the rainbow foil was mink foil. That works well with, it's that the toner reactive foil. So all you need is a toner printed sentiment or piece of paper and it will adhere to it. I have had way better luck with the hammer mill than I did with any other paper that I've tried through it. So if that's something that you've struggled with on your own when you are doing a laser printed sentiment or image and you want to foil it, that hammer mill paper is really helped with that one. I get a lot better result when I foil my own. Now for this one, I have decided that I was going to bring that stencil back in. That comes with this, I guess, combination. It's Taylor Expressions, I think. I think the stamp is separate, the stencil is separate, and then they also have the die that you can buy separately. I think it might have been a kit at some point. I don't know. But so I decided I was going to bring in that stencil again just because I liked that little kind of mini, I guess you could say, firework. And so that's kind of what I was going for there. And then, of course, because I did a rainbow style sentiment on my foil, I decided to kind of make a rainbow border around the outside. Now, I should have started with the yellow. I realized that as soon as I put the red down, and I was like, oh, I should have started with the yellow, which it ends up being okay. But I'm just trying to cheat and only use 3 colors to make my rainbow, which is easy enough, right? So just picking out a blue, a yellow, and a red, and then of course mixing colors to get overlapping to get the colors that you want for your other rainbow colors. And so I did do a little bit of over stenciling towards the center there, but it's okay. It's, supposed to be a little bonkers, I guess. I made it work. And so I'm going to bring in some of those heads that I die cut out from my stamped image. I had a different idea with this one when I die cut them all out. It took me a few days to get around to finishing all of my Mad Hatter cards. I was working on some other things in between there, and sometimes time and my ideas don't always work hand in hand. It's it's what happens. And so my original train of thought kind of got lost because I didn't write it down, like everything. I never write anything down, especially when it comes to ideas. Anyways, so this is what I ended up coming up with. I kind of like, that foiled sentiment in the middle, and just the crazy Mad Hatters being haphazardly placed throughout. I think that was basically where I was going with this one. Well, to make it look a little bit more like a Mad Hatter and not so much like a leprechaun, I did come in with my white Jelly Roll pen and add a white tag to the front or side, and then adding that 10/6 onto the hat front there as well. I will put this on a green card base so it kind of gives you that border. And of course, have to open up that glue bottle again because, it's dry in my house, and so it dries out fast. I love that foiled sentiment. It's just all the things. So for this one, I really love the sentiment on this one. I can't read it right now. So when you can't sit in the bright, or when you can't think on the bright side, is that what it is? On the bright side, I will come and sit with you in the dark. And so I brought in the stencil from Hero Arts. I'm pretty sure I picked it up at Joann's a couple of years ago. It was like a night sky stencil set. I think it was like a 2-pack. So this one, and I don't remember which the other one was that came with it, but it's this one and then another one. And so I like the swirly kind of magical, mystical feel to that one. And then I wanted to do, I was kind of hemming and hawing between how I was going to do this one. I kind of thought about putting it on black. I kind of thought about doing a double border here and then just like popping up that center part and leaving the bottom part like, you know, the frame on the outside kind of recessed. But ultimately, I had all of this leftover foil from doing my sentiments. Usually I print on a sheet of black paper through the printer, and then I do a second run through and get the reverse but with black behind it. And so for these, I didn't want to do that. And so I'm coming in and inking the edges in a little bit more black, kind of dusting it up a little bit, making it a little bit darker. Hence, it kind of goes with the sentiment. And then I'm going to bring in one of those Mad Hatter cut pieces, and I'm going to darken it up as well. So I did do some ink blending around the outside. I'm just using whatever black was left on my blending brush here, not re-inking it, but adding that little bit of gray and or black. It kind of blends it into the background a little bit more. And then my idea was, so I took a full adhesive sheet and put that on the front, and then I cut off what was left over, the overhang. But I'm going to pull this back a little bit and then take that foil sheet and rub it on there and kind of get the sticky, the foil will stick obviously to that adhesive sheet. And so by doing this, I will get some foiled spots on my card base here. Now, I wasn't great at making sure that I had foil exactly where I needed it on all of the things. And so I did end up cutting it down just a little bit because my foil sheet didn't stick, I guess, in certain places as well as it should have, which was fine, really. It was more I wanted that bright, I don't know, because it just, kind of that bright outside edge that just kind of goes with it. And so I was kind of playing with adding that frame back in to the outside or not. And then I decided not to ultimately. And then I'm just going back in with that foil sheet and trying to fill in anything that might still be sticky there. And then of course I'm going to have to bring this into the paper trimmer. And I ended up taking it to my big paper trimmer because that little one just does not like cutting multiple layers of super thick cardstock. So to get a clean cut, I brought it over to the big one, trimmed off all of my overhang pieces, and yeah, I couldn't decide. I ended up not putting the frame on ultimately. I love the look of that one, that sentiment with that foiling, and then of course that foil that's peeking out in the corners just kind of, I don't know, ties it all in so well. So I still had a few leftover pieces, so I'm going to just tuck those onto the inside, and when I add a sentiment to them later, they already have a little bit of the outside on the inside. So it's always tea time. You are entirely bonkers, but I'll tell you a secret. All the best people are. And of course, then the last one. I hope you enjoyed this series, and I will be back soon with a new one. Have an amazing day. Bye!